Okay, I already started. I should have did a couple of minutes, but that's okay. So I'm already on right now. So I'm gonna check with Doug right now, see if he's well, okay. Yes, I've already it's already started, so you should be it may take a minute, but um and like I said, you might have to kind of see, about your hello? Yeah. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I've already started. I'm waiting for everybody to come on. 9. Oh, okay. This is crazy. No. It shouldn't, that's the wrong date. I don't know. Hold on for 1 second. This is, oh God. Okay, okay, okay. Let me do this again. Oh, yeah, 5-3. Yeah, yes. It shouldn't even, okay. Let me resend this to you guys. This is crazy. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't mind doing that. Yeah. It had the wrong date. I don't mind. I'm gonna do it. I don't mind doing that. I just resent it. I'm gonna call him right now. I don't mind doing that. Yeah, I did. Yeah. This computer made a mistake. Okay. I got her. Okay, I got her. I'm sending it. Hello? Oh, he's on. You should be getting it in a second, Anthony.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Uh, let me see. Good morning, Doug. Morning, Doug. Can you hear me, Doug? I'm gonna ask if he can unmute.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy, fabulous, fruitful Friday, everybody.
Hey, happy Fruitful Friday. I'm I'm asking Doug to unmute. He is on. So he may have like a little issue with that. I'm gonna start off with prayer. Lord, wait a minute, hold on. Here he is. Hey, good morning, Doug. Can't hear you.
Great. Now I'm unmuted too. Now I can hear, see, and listen. Let's go.
You doing better than most animals out here.
Good morning,
Hey,
Doug.
Good morning.
can you hear them, Doug? Hello, everyone. We're gonna ask everybody to unmute. Are you there, Doug?
Yes.
Okay. What we like to do, Doug, is start off with prayer. And if you don't mind, would you like to lead us off in prayer?
Glad to.
Thank you.
All right. Lord, it's a beautiful morning, and we thank you for the gift of weather of any kind. Thank you for the gift of communication, the primary way we receive and share your love. Bless our conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Amen. Thank you,
I,
Doug.
I I love what you said. Bless our conversation. Bless our conversation. Uh, Doug, I mean, if you would like to introduce yourself to everyone, tell us everyone about who you are and what's your passion?
All right.
What's your passion?
Well, I've got a name and a job, but I've got an identity that I've taken on some time back and in some coursework I did, and it still works for me. So who I am is the possibility that that all people, I'm not saying it very well. Who I am is the possibility that all people embrace the one human race. So I don't expect that to be fulfilled in my lifetime, but constantly moving forward with it. And the way I happen to practice that in my work as a real estate agent is hinted at pretty strongly in my email. If you're from Kansas City, you'll laugh as soon as you hear it. If you're not from Kansas City, then I get to preach a 30-second sermon to whoever else I'm talking to on the phone about my email address being trustbuster@yahoo.com. So since I first got my email in the late 90s, I decided I'll just wear my intention on my sleeve. So in terms of my business practice, my point was black folks get to buy wherever they want and white folks get to know there is life east of Troost Avenue. So when I moved here from New York City in 1989, 88, 89, I had about 50 one-to-one meetings to get to know my new city right away. And one of the questions I asked was, well, where are the integrated neighborhoods in town? Turned out there was one sliver, the corridor, 4 or 5 block corridor between Troost Avenue and Paseo Boulevard. So that's where I found my house to buy and raise my family. So in my now 35 years here, my first year I lived out in South KC near my in-laws to get started. Then I bought my house in the Square Park neighborhood. When my family got too small for my 3,000 square foot house, I did rent briefly on Central Street. And but then in 2012, I bought my house on Forest Avenue at the tax foreclosure auction. And I'm not telling you too much you don't know about Troost Avenue, but at the time, the neighborhood called Manheim Park was such a pariah neighborhood that when 4 houses came up for the tax auction, one of them nobody bid on, and the other 3 there was only one bid. So I bought my house that was in move-in condition for $1,537.40.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
The chain link fence around the house would have cost more than that. So anyway, having done not much except clean it and put a roof on it, you know, my house is now worth about at least 100 times that, thanks to the fact that people from Lincoln, Nebraska and Austin, Texas or Chicago, their parents never told them, don't go east of Troost Avenue. And so the natural location things in real estate have overcome the work of J.C. Nichols and his co-conspirators in real estate and banking. So the answer to how long can you artificially suppress location with racial bias turns out to be, at least in Kansas City, about 8 decades. So that's why Manheim Park and Troosterwood, where I'm sitting, are very, very integrated now. And I like to mock my fellow real estate agents who you might notice occasionally, if you ever have reason to look at a real estate ad, they'll say that something on used to be on Harrison, but now it's on Tracy or Virginia. They'll say it's in Brookside. Brookside? I thought that stopped at Oak. There's no actual boundary, of course, but so my joke about my fellow real estate agents is that Brookside is as far east as white people will dare to live. So that's such is the nature of Kansas City
Yeah.
racial heritage.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. That's unique, how you broke that down with Troost. I mean, I think we talked about a while back. My father had his church on 43rd and Troost, but now there's like some businesses that's springing up on that.
Oh, like mine. My office is
Yeah.
directly across the street.
Are you serious?
My
Oh
office
my
is
God.
above Equal Minded Cafe, right across the street from the house that your father used to have the church in.
Oh wow. Interesting. Small world. I know Renetta has a question. She lives in High Point, North Carolina, but we've known each other since 2011. Same college. Renetta, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you so much, Doug, for taking out the time to come talk with us. We greatly,
Mm.
greatly appreciate it. And I just wanted to say, like, being a homeowner for over 10 years, it
Mhm.
is a blessing. But for first-time homeowner buyers, what would you tell them to be aware of?
Well, the first time buyers really should have a buyer's agent working for them and watching out for them, negotiating on their behalf. I would actually say my first bit of advice would be don't believe what you read in the newspaper about how hard it is to buy a house. There's mythology out there that is hard to die. There are people that, if you read some newspaper column, you'd think, well, you have to have a credit score over 700. You have to have a down payment of 20% of the purchase price. Not so. Don't wait to become a homeowner. I even tell people, like, don't even save for a down payment. If you have money that you can spend, pay off your bills, make sure your credit is somewhat decent, but even that's not nearly as hard. There's plenty of programs out there where credit score of 580 will get you into a house. I'll tell you some more about other such programs in a minute, but I'd say the very first thing is stop waiting. You're paying somebody's mortgage already. You're just not paying your own.
Man.
Think I have to chime in. That's good advice, Doug. I just wanted to ask, what do you see is one of the contributing factors to the myth about home ownership? And then it's probably like a two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a program, and I know a lot of people don't agree with it. I went through the Dave Ramsey program.
Mm-hmm.
So my question was, what would be one of the contributing factors that you think the myth about home ownership that people kind of resist going forward on it? And then the next one would be, why is it so important to own? Why is it so important to pay your mortgage off so you can? That's my question.
Right. I'll start with the last one first. At least in America, the way to build wealth primary way is through home ownership. You just can't save money fast enough to compete with the likely growth in equity over a long period of time. Now, there's exceptions like the financial crisis of 2008 to 12 or whatever, but one particular example, a while back, Wells Fargo had a blood money program where they were offering $15,000 free for first-time homebuyers. Had a young woman with a 5-year-old daughter who showed a bunch of houses too, and she liked one a lot. She let her mother intervene and say, "Oh, that's a bad neighborhood." Well, so anyway, Nakia said, "Listen, I'll just wait and I'll save." Nakia, you can't save $15,000. If you wait till you've saved $15,000 for a down payment or more, your kindergartner is going to be graduating from high school by that time. Or, this is somebody who was making $19 to $22 an hour at her jobs. Just, and then honestly, she could have bought a particular house at the corner of 72nd or 72nd or 73rd and Tracy for $105,000 a year later, it was worth 150, and now it's worth 225. You can't save that fast, right? So another quick example, one of my all-time favorites. I'm going to get to your second question, but a young woman I met in Manheim Park. She was living in the Bancroft School townhomes. She was on Section 8. She had been on Section 8 for 10 years. She had 2 children. Their father was something like $18,000 behind in child support payments. He never did pay. And in, I think it was December of 2017, I helped her move straight from Section 8 to owning a fully renovated house 2 blocks away. She was able to buy it with $16,000 worth of free money. She bought the house. She was able to even design the house to some extent because it was being renovated by a nonprofit agency, and they had a federal subsidy, so that the day she bought it for 135 or something like that, it was already worth 175. She decided it wasn't her forever house, and just 2.5 years later wanted to move further east where she had grown up and where and she was within walking distance of her church. So in 2.5 years, she resold the house and took away $110,000 in equity. And she made a $100,000 down payment on her house on College Avenue. At the time, the mortgage rates were incredibly low. Her mortgage interest rate is 2.5%. Her kids are not going to be poor for the rest of their lives. And her grandkids are not going to be poor. So that's the legacy of home ownership. About the myths, some of it's historical. For example, we talk about FHA loans. That's FHA is really short for FA insured loans. The law that started that was the Federal Housing Act was in 1934. At the time, in the 30s and before, you really did have to have a huge down payment to buy a house. And in order to protect banks, the law was written so that people could actually buy a house with smaller down payment, like 3 to 3.5% usually now for FHA insured loans. So that if the bank had an accident, so to speak, with its borrower, the bank could file, and the house was foreclosed on, the bank would file an insurance claim, get reimbursed for the loan, and the loan would be totaled, so to speak. And that's how HUD houses occur. The insurer gets the house. Well, my point about that is that needing 20% goes way back to as far back as that, at least. Or a lot of people said, well, hey, you're better off if you don't have to pay mortgage insurance. And that's really true. Right now on an FHA loan, if your loan was $200,000, your annual mortgage insurance premium would be $1,100. You'd pay that effectively monthly. And so, roughly $91 gets added to your payment that doesn't really do you any good at all. So if you can avoid that would be a reason to have a $20,000, a 20% down payment. But there are lots of banks right now that offer in-house products in order to make themselves look good with respect to the banking regulators that don't require mortgage insurance. Commerce Bank has a program that doesn't require mortgage insurance. If your credit score is 580 or above, the down payment is 3%. If your credit score is slightly higher, 620 or something, there's 0 down payment. So the main point being is that it's no longer true that you have to make a 20% down payment to avoid mortgage insurance.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Great answer. Great answer. Appreciate it.
Right. And I want to ask you, thank you, Renetta and Anthony, for those fabulous questions. Are you still president over your neighborhood association?
I am the president of Historic Manheim Park Association, at least a couple more months. I've been on the board since 2015, but only this year became the president of it. My goal is to work myself out of a job and find somebody else to take over that leadership role.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. what you just said. You're giving you want to give somebody else a chance, someone else a leeway to come in and pick up where you left off.
Mhm.
And we applaud you, Doug, for what you've done, what you've accomplished in the Kansas City community, and what you're gonna keep accomplishing in Kansas City, because it doesn't stop, as you
Mhm.
know. We have so much going on in our city, but it's everywhere. It's not just Kansas City. It's everywhere. But what you're doing, you're tackling one of the vital needs of a family, what a family needs, and that's home ownership. That's home ownership. So, like I said, we applaud you. But what's next for you when it comes to home ownership, or Morris Square? Because you're very active in Morris Square,
Right.
and we just want to know the update with
Sure.
the letter that, yeah, and that letter I told Anthony Renetta, that letter is just eye-opening. You know, but I would like you
Oh,
to
my.
expound more on the letter.
Well, my testimony to the Board of Police
Yes.
Commissioners, you mean? Mhm. Well, let's do transition to talking about Moore Squared, which is Metro Organization for Racial and Economic Equity. We go by the kind of the acronym and handy name of Moore Squared. That started in 2004. Our 20th anniversary is coming up in September. Lots of not-for-profits don't make it that long. We've got a huge list of accomplishments. Right now, the particular unjust thing that we're taking on is the state control of our police department. I bet in High Point, you could tell us who runs your police department. And I'll bet you it's not the governor of the state of North Carolina. So what isn't going on anyplace else, literally, except Kansas City, is we are the largest city in the nation that does not control its own police department. We are like wards of the state, literally. This has historical roots that are significant. The law that gives Governor Parson or any Missouri governor the authority to appoint 4 of the 5 police board commissioners was passed in March of 1861. Any history buffs here? March of 1861. Doesn't that sound like the start of the Civil War? Yep.
Yeah.
When the governor of Missouri was Confederate leaning, and the cache of ammunition at the St. Louis Armory was there for the taking of one army or another, he made sure that the state passed a law giving him the authority to appoint the police commissioners. One of the appointees confirmed straight out the purpose was to turn over those ammunition to the Confederate Army. That particular police commissioner later became a Confederate general. The governor later abdicated himself. The governor proposed that Missouri join the Confederacy. So, even though Kansas City didn't even have a police department in 1861, over the decades, it's been that law that was aimed to protect and preserve slavery that gives the authority of the governor to run our police department. There was something, well, yesterday's newspaper, here's the headline. I don't know how it's showing up on your screen, but
Oh, that's good. That's good.
historic Supreme Court orders new election on KCPD funding. So it's bad enough that the state runs our department, but the state even tells us how to spend our own money. It might be also understood simply as taxation without representation. So the state takes 20% of the Kansas City, Missouri budget, turns it over to the Board of Police Commissioners to spend how they want. So a couple years ago, Mayor Lucas had the audacity to suggest some changes in how some of that money was spent into preventive crime measures. And state leaders and the Board of Police Commissioners took umbrage at that. And they said, well, we'll show you, led by a state representative or a state senator out of Parkville, Missouri, just north of here. And they passed a law that says, okay, now you have to spend 25% of your budget on the police department. Well, that actually, that law would violate what's known in Missouri as the Hancock Amendment. That's been around for 30 some years. Hancock Amendment basically says you can't pass a law that tells somebody to do something without the money to do it. So they passed a law that they knew was unconstitutional because it required us to spend money without providing the money from the state. Therefore, they put Amendment 4 on the ballot to change the state constitution specifically to have an exception to the Hancock Amendment that's also in the Constitution in order to tell Kansas City how much money to spend on our police department. Then the ballot language, it has to be written by the Secretary of State. The ballot language was a lie. The ballot language, as you know, if you ever see something in Missouri on the ballot for some money, it always says the fiscal impact is blah, 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 right? It'll cost us much money.
Fiscal,
well, the lie that they put out there was the fiscal impact was zero. It wouldn't even have been on the ballot. There was no need for it if the fiscal impact was zero. So my testimony around that time to the Board of Police Commissioners was that you were complicit in ballot fraud. Well, a few days ago, the Missouri Supreme Court decided that was exactly the case, that they lied to the voters when they said it's going to have no fiscal impact. And of course, then people from, it's just ridiculous. People from Higginsville and Maryville and Hannibal and Cape Girardeau all decided how much money Kansas City should spend on its police department. Is that insane or what? Well, it's insane, but now we're going to have another vote on it. So now the problem with that lawsuit, which was filed by Mayor Lucas as an individual, the problem with that lawsuit is all it does is get us back on the ballot again to have the people of Cape Girardeau and Hannibal and Springfield and Columbia and Trenton decide how much we should spend on our police department. Is that really a win? No, it's not. So that's why More Squared initiated a lawsuit that was filed in federal court on March 11th. That points out, it contends that the law that gives the governor the right to appoint our police commissioners is unconstitutional and also violates federal law. So our case was filed in federal court, not in state court. So the two key things are that one, it violates the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, because it was designed to protect slavery. Legislative history matters. Number two, the police department's own statistics demonstrate that they don't provide equal protection. Black folks get their cars stopped and searched at a much higher rate than blacks, supposedly for looking for drugs. In fact, white folks that get stopped looking for drugs, that there's a higher percentage of them that have drugs than black folks. Well, anyway, and we know, basically every black person in Kansas City has a story to tell about how bad the policing is here. Well, then secondly, there's the Title VI of the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964 says you can't take federal money and use it in a discriminatory purpose. Well, the police department gets plenty of money from the feds, and we have a pattern and practice of discriminatory behavior here. So anyway, we're hopeful that that lawsuit in federal court will completely get rid of the Board of Police Commissioners altogether. And like every other city in America, we'll be able to decide who should run our police department, how it should be run, and how much money we should spend on it, what our priorities should be, and so on. We won't be kindergartners anymore.
Oh wow! Oh wow! You said a mouthful.
That's good.
Especially in regards to the 14th Amendment with equal protection. And please keep us updated on that. I see it all the time when I'm at work. I said Highway 169, they're flying up and down like it's I mean it's just unreal, but it's everywhere. So but yeah, I mean when you said about pulling over and that experience. So yeah, and I just want everyone that's out there who's going to be listening to this podcast to understand that you do have rights, and you're more you're more than what you really realize. You really are. And
Can I make a
Doug,
quick example about that?
please do, yeah.
All
Please.
right. So there's a retired police detective named Spark Bookhart who in around 2010 or so published, maybe 2007, something like that, published a little booklet, spiral bound thing, you know, about 3 by 7 or something, perfectly sized to fit in the glove box. Good graphics on it that my oldest son actually did. And so I had a copy, kind of a gift, because my son did the artwork. Well, I would actually share that book with my students at Hogan Prep High School when I was substitute teaching at that time. When they were finished with their homework, I would especially hand it to the young men. The title of the little pamphlet was "Shut Your Black Ass Up." And it was given to people to put in their car, to put a copy of their insurance card and ownership information. And so when you got pulled over by the police and they wanted to see your driver's and insurance, you'd hand them this book that says "Shut Your Black Ass Up," and made clear what you did not have to say to the police, who they could search, and like, you know, no, you don't have the right to even know the name of this person sitting over here at my right unless they're a convicted felon, for example. Anyway, well, Spark had hundreds and hundreds of copies, maybe 1,000 copies of that made. That little copy that I had was one of the very few that's still remaining, because the day that he picked it up from the printer, someone broke into his car and stole them all out of the back of his trunk.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
It was somebody in the police department.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Amazing. Amazing. Oh wow. It's kind of funny how weird stuff happens sometimes, especially when it comes to individuals and law enforcement. Yeah, it's kind of weird. We're just gonna keep it at that. We're gonna keep it at that because yeah, and I'm thank you, Doug. I didn't know you was a substitute teacher at Hogan Prep School.
When real estate was bad, I was a substitute teacher for about 2.5 years.
Oh
I
wow.
still have friends that I see. It's just wonderful to see those students around town. One of them works here at Rockhurst University. He's the head of their kind of physical wellness department and runs the fitness center. One day I'm walking out of Office Depot and somebody says, "Trustbuster." It was one of my former students. Sometimes I would teach lessons on things like Kansas City geography.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Choose Buster. That's an amazing name. Uh man, I mean it's some names that I've made up for you. That we kind of kid around with, like Dig Dug, like the video game, and I just came up with one last night, believe it or not. We all remember that television show Love Connection. Chuck Willery, but he used to get couples together, like, and it was like a dating show. If you remember, Doug, anybody called it Love Connection. Then I thought of something last night. I said, what about the Doug connection? Because Doug is always connecting people. Every time I see you, Doug, you're at a meeting, you're organized. I mean, you're different. You're all over the place. So
There is that book. There's a famous author that written a bunch of books by now, and his name will come to me, or somebody may know, but he talks about personality types, and one of them is a connector. Somebody that read that book first said that of me, and I have to agree that it's true. Specifically, one of my favorite things to do in Kansas City is to introduce two Black people to each other that don't know each other. I know them both and get to introduce them.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. I have another question. And I just read about the Manane Park Community Land Trust, which is a building affordable housing for Black teachers with
Mhm.
teachers like me. Can you expound on that? Because
Sure.
that really got my attention.
The founder and executive director of Teachers Like Me is Dr. Trinity Davis. For 7 years, she was head of curriculum for Kansas City, Missouri School Department. About that time, I had introduced somebody to Manheim Park, and he moved over here from, 1 block from State Line, moved him and his wife into Manheim Park, bought some houses, and then was noticing that vacant land was skyrocketing in price. He had been in Denver and seen the gentrification and the Denverization going on there, so to speak, and he wanted to prevent that. Well, I helped him buy up some vacant land and buy some land at the tax auction. So he had this idea. He heard an interview on National Public Radio one day talking about statistically how if a student has as many as one and only one Black teacher in their public school education time, they have an incredibly higher percentage of graduation rate. So he thought, well, let's do something about that. And he went to the school district and said, hey, how about we provide some low-cost housing specifically for Black teachers? And the administrators of the school district is, oh, don't say that. Don't say Black teachers. We might get into trouble. As if that's discrimination, right? So, but they did say, but you know what? You ought to talk to Dr. Trinity Davis. So he met with her. And when she met with him, she realized, okay, this is my dream come true. I've designed a curriculum that's good to teach Black kids, but I don't have any Black teachers to teach them.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
the department, the school district being 80% or more Black students or minority students and a handful of Black teachers. So she quit that job, founded Teachers Like Me. So she recruits, inspires, trains, supports young Black teachers. So they've got people coming from Dillard University, from Langston, from Pine Bluff. Anyway, mostly historically Black colleges and universities. And we, in collaboration with Manheim Community Land Trust, we own a few houses and have built our first duplex. This new duplex on the 41 block of Tracy Avenue has 3 bedrooms up and 3 bedrooms down. Each bedroom has its own private bathroom, and teachers, young Black teachers, are able to rent for $400 a month. That helps recruit teachers when they figure out they can actually live in the place that they teach. Well, 2 more duplexes are going up on community land trust lots right next door. The goal is to create a teacher village. So for Manheim Park as a neighborhood, what an incredible thing. What's been a bunch of vacant land now gets to be a village of young, inspired, and inspirational Black teachers who will be a benefit to the neighborhood. And of course, the school district gets Black teachers that can afford to live in the city and set their roots down here. So we have a variety of houses. The one I described, it feels a little bit like a college dormitory. Other students are living in a more like a 1-bedroom unit. So that's our next. And so actually just yesterday, I heard from Dr. Davis. She said that a couple bankers and foundations have said to her, well, you've got options to build on these other 13 lots in Manheim Park over a 5-year period. Let's just get it done now. And so they are ready to fund the construction of the entire village of teachers in the next couple of years. Right now, the program has a total of 70 teachers who are either now teaching or they're students at UMKC or they're coming here from, places they just graduated. So it's truly unique. And once we get all those built out, she says, now we can take this model on the road. Teachers Like Me has already been contacted by other cities to say, wow, can we replicate this here where we can actually have a housing that's affordable to the teachers? So
Oh, wow.
that's the deal.
Wow, wow. Thank you. Please keep me updated because where I live at, there are teachers that do live
Mhm.
in the complex. So yeah, both. Oh, please. I mean, that's a terrific idea. That's a
One of the
terrific
teachers
idea.
teaches at the school where your wife works, Tyrone.
Oh, really?
I actually met him in an open house one day, and he said his name was Sylvester Holmes, and I said, are you related to the Sylvester Holmes that used to call me captain or boss or whatever?
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
his dad, Sylvester Holmes, used to work in a nonprofit housing agency same time I did in the 90s. And Sylvester Holmes went away to do whatever kind of business. And, by the time he's about 40, he decides that teaching is what he really wants to do and came back and is a high school teacher at East High School now.
Oh,
So anyway,
okay.
he's
Okay.
one of the people, he and his wife, looking for housing that's supported by teachers like me.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna tell Jennifer, and we're gonna end this because we got a minute left. It's gonna go by so fast. Would you like to end this off in prayer, Doug?
I'll pass that off to somebody else this time since I did the opening prayer.
Okay, I can do it. Lord,
All right.
thank you for Doug. Doug is he's all around and he's in the midst, and that's what you love about him, Lord. That's what we love about him. And keep him and his family in harm's way, just like with all of our families, Lord. Teach us how to relax and have fun, and we would love to have Doug back on with us again. In Jesus' name, thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Amen.
Doug.
Keep being the light, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah,
Keep being the
thank you.
light.
Thank you.
Oh, my
Thank you.
pleasure. You can tell this
Thank you so
stuff inspires
much.
me. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, thank
Oh,
you. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
she said thank you. You
Okay,
know,
good. Appreciate it.
and we're gonna have you back because a lot of people need to understand that they have to start investing. And this is the best time to invest. And why not invest in your own?